Oh no, I'm ruining the surprise. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another segment, another episode of live streaming talking about watches, of course. What's the topic at hand that we have today? We're going to be talking about a vintage inspired bracelet. I so much was inspired by this bracelet that I wanted to dedicate a single live to it. Of course, I'm going to show you some watches. I have a bunch of watches by my side. But before we do that, as people trickle in, thank you so much if you're watching this on the playback. I do appreciate your support. I want to talk about where I want to take the channel. What's the next step? Yes. And I was thinking about it, and I think I want to do members perks, right? I want to do members perks. I want to add more value to the channel. But when you do that, when you talk about adding more value to the channel, you have to talk about adding more value to the viewer. And so for the first thing that I want to show you guys as far as what we're going to be doing with that, let's bring that up on screen. Hang on. There we go. So here's how the membership goes. And here's the deal, guys. I love the watch community and their feedback. I've started off in a watch community. In fact, this channel was only born out of being inspired by a watch community prior, right? Before I hit record, I was part of that. So I'm doing this, but this is very early stages, and I want your guys' feedback on the direction that I should take for the channel when it comes to the membership. And I want not only to be able to add more value to the channel, but I want to also add more value to you guys moving forward. So with that being said, if you guys have any suggestions on how I could do so, I'm all ears as far as that goes. But I want to show you guys exactly what I have so far. So for $2.99 a month, supporting the channel as a member, we're going to have special emojis. We're going to have early access to new videos. We're going to have membership only polls. And with the polls, I'm going to start asking you guys what review you would like to see first, or what review you would like to see next. What would you like for me to cover? Maybe it's also live streams. I don't want to be in full control of the channel. I want this to be a community channel. I want you guys to have a say in what you want to see next, and I want to open the floor open to that. Priority. So I have priority on reply comments, but at the end of the day, guys, I'm going to reply to you if you leave a comment on my channel eventually. I'm not so big where I have 1,000 comments to respond to. So I'm going to, of course, respond to you. I have that there, but really everybody is a priority at this point. I don't have to outsource anything. I'm doing my own edits. I'm doing everything myself in the channel as of right now. But the point is this, guys. Here's the deal. And I was a little, not going to cap, I was a little nervous about talking about this. I don't want to paywall certain things for the channel. However, I do want to be able to put money into the channel when it's necessary. And at first, I had that little donation with PayPal, but I've done away with that. I think that if you guys are supporting the channel, you should get something out of it. And as far as a watch enthusiast reviewer goes, as far as producing content, you need watches. And what I want to do with the money moving forward is maybe I get gear. Maybe I'm able to increase things as far as production with that money. But also, I want to be able to offer paying for watches that I review, right? I don't want, and I understand that with brands, it's an investment, even with letting me borrow watches, but I like to keep them, right? I like to keep the watches that are sent to the channel, not because, well, you know, part of it is because I like to keep watches because I'm a watch enthusiast, but I like to introduce them into topics of discussion. I like to keep them in my collection. Therefore, when it is relative to live streams like I'm doing right now, I like to bring them up. I like to show them off on stage. And just to show you guys, this is a Mark Well, right? This is a Mark Well, one of his earlier watches and one of the watches that was given to the channel. And I still have the watch because it is going to be relevant for conversations that we have moving forward. Maybe it's a minimalistic topic. Maybe it's a bronze topic. I don't know, but eventually we'll squeeze that in and it will be relative to what we talk about. And I can show you guys that watch itself. So we have that perk, priority replies to comments. Again, I'm going to reply to everybody right now because I'm not getting 2,000 comments as is. But Watch Wizards level is going to give you access to content that I'm going to put behind that paywall. I'm going to be straight up and honest. I'm a little nervous about even saying that. Let me know how you guys feel about that. Here's the deal. Nothing's going to change for the one video I do a week, plus the live that I do a week. But I'm going to add another live, maybe once, twice, maybe 3 times a month. I don't know what that looks like yet. But that's going to be exclusively for the members who are within the Watch Wizards. Now, here's the deal. I'm a little buttoned up when I do these lives. You guys are getting me, right? I'm a silly chicken, right? I'm a silly goose. You guys are getting me. This is who I am. However, I keep my content rated PG-13. And I don't like to curse. I don't like to talk outlandish. I like to keep it where you could watch these live, even if you have your kids in the background. You don't have to worry about me saying something too crazy. However, if I'm being honest, and I am going to be honest, I curse like a sailor during my normal hours of operation. And I'd like to be able to do that. I'd like to be able to give you guys some uncut raw footage. I'd like to be able to fully be myself. And it's not just about cursing, right? It's about me not pulling punches anymore. I feel that sometimes I'm trying to be very respectful of everybody's ideas, although I'm very opinionated in some ideas. So with this, it's going to be uncut live streams. It's going to be raw footage. You're going to hear some cursing, so it is going to be rated R. Be prepared for that, right? And I think this is a nice way to separate the two in order to control it, so that way you know if you're watching a members only live, you can expect there to be some cussing. But again, it's not just going to be about me cursing. It's going to be about me just really not pulling punches about how I feel about controversy topics, right? And my ideals are not going to change. It's just going to be my delivery and how I really feel about it vividly, if you will. So in addition to those live streams, you guys are going to be able to come up to the stage. I want to open the floor. I want you guys to be able to come on here. Now, I don't do that for my normal lives because I'm a chatterbox and I like to go. It's a different vibe if you have anybody else on the live stream. But that being said, when it comes to the Watch Wizard level and I do those live streams, if you happen to be on, you can come to the stage. Now, you don't have to have a camera. You don't have to show your face. It could just be a voice behind it. But I want to open the floor to you guys if you have any questions at all about me and what I do here. And also, I'm going to be more forthgoing to what's going on in my personal life and talk about YouTube and doing YouTube streams and everything else of the like. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff and you want to support the channel, just know that anything that I make off of YouTube goes back into the channel for its growth, and you're legitimately supporting the channel as is. Anyway, we've ranted on for about 8 minutes exactly now about that, and that's not what you guys came here for. You came here to see some watches. So let's show what's on wrist and let's remove what's on screen if I can figure out how to do so. Hang on one second. Is it this? There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am double wristing as I normally do. I know that's a funky chicken move, but I do have the Namoki. This is the Namoki Seiko Speedmaster edition. They're coming out. They haven't released this yet. I did build it. I do have a build video for it, and you guys are going to see that. But on there is the topic of discussion, which is the Speidel. I think that's how it's pronounced, Speidel. Twistoflex. That's the bracelet. That's what you saw on the actual thumbnail, and that's what we're going to be talking about today more specifically. But there are a few things, and I have a bunch of watches next to me that I'm going to show you guys. And on my other wrist, I have the Timex. Or is it the Q Timex? It's the Q Timex. It's not the TimexQ. It's the Q Timex. I've been loving this watch, and I want to actually show you guys in up close what I've done to it. And I've actually put a Vario strap on here, and I forgot the other watches that I want to show you that was relative to that. But I want to talk about the strap that came with it and how we got to the Speidel Twistoflex. Okay. First and foremost, shout out to John Lively. That's how I became privy to the actual strap itself, or I should say bracelet at this point, right? And it's just the Expando bracelet, right? It's just the Expando bracelet. And here's what I thought about the bracelet prior to watching him go live on Instagram. I thought that if a band stretches on your wrist, it's going to pull your hair. That's not the case. Okay, So let that be known now. These Speidel bracelets are not hair pullers. Very rarely will you get your hair pulled. Let's say that. The only time you're going to get your hair pulled is when you're doing one of these, right? And you're actually moving it up and down. You're not doing that during the day. And I can even adjust this, put it here, and I could put it back. And there's no hair pulled. I didn't feel one hair being pulled at all. So let me get that out of the way. And the reason why I brought that up first is because the TimexQ bracelet, not so much. This thing is as good as getting waxed. It's very, very vintage inspiration for sure. I love the way that it looks. However, it doesn't expand and it pulls the crap out of your hair. Now, I happen to wear my bracelets tight enough where the bracelet doesn't move up and down my wrist so much. So I don't have that issue with it pulling my hairs. But even when I take this bracelet off for the Q Timex, yeah, this one's pulling hairs. This one's pulling hairs. So to get that vintage look for your watches, I would definitely go with Speidel for sure. For sure. And I bought like 8 of them, ladies and gentlemen. And I wanted to make a live dedicated on it. And I wanted to elaborate even with what John Liley gave us because I went through some experience with it for sure. Wistful Ignorance is in the building. What's going on, brother, man? So my TimexQ, let's go back to that. Absolutely loving this thing. I wanted watches to double wrist, and I like to do quartz watches. I like to do stuff that's slimmer when I double wrist, and I put an automatic on the other wrist as is. And I'm going to tell you something how I got to this point. Let's bring this up. Hang on one second. We're going to actually bring up Strap Habits website, and that's how I'm going to let you know how I got to this strap ultimately, right? So let's do this. I think it's 5. There we go. So I was on Strap Habit because I was watching Tyree from Wrist Unwound, and he has an episode dedicated to Strap Habit and their straps for his watches. And just so you guys know, Tyree from Wrist Unwound is a Timex king. I'll let you know this. I'll put you on this. Originally, this live was supposed to be on this TimexQ, the history, the reissue, but I didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling about covering this watch for the entire live. I felt that, for one, there were better people like Tyree who can cover it. But for two, I felt like I was more inspired to talk about Speidel's bracelets as is. And it's going to tie into everything moving forward. But I wanted to also talk about TimexQ, and I have been enjoying this watch for sure. This is what I call a snacker. When it comes to putting watches to your collection, and as your taste grows over time, chances are you're going to like watches that are going to cost more money. Therefore, it's nice to purchase watches that are quote unquote snackers. Now, the TimexQ, and this is like, you guys know this Pepsi dial, it's affordable. It price ranges from like $150 to $175. However, on eBay, I got it for just over $100. I think it was like $120. And I like the watch. I really do. I like the watch. There were things about it that I really didn't understand before purchasing it. Now, here's the deal. Even though I've been collecting for 5 years, yeah, I fall into hype as well. That still happens. But when you have great people like Tyree covering this watch, and he has a couple of iterations, I was like, you know what? Let's pull the trigger and let's see what happens. Now, I'll tell you something about the TimexQ. I'll tell you a couple of things about the TimexQ. And I don't know if I didn't think I put a website directly for it, but we're going to stick to talking about the strap and my experience with this TimexQ before we move forward, if you will. Let me check on chat, make sure you guys are good. I don't want to ignore you guys. Tyree's a beast. Yeah, he's a savage. Tyree's got a whole, he's got a whole team. Anyway, TimexQ, Q Timex. Casio Royale, Casio Referee. You guys know that watch, right? I should have grabbed that. I still have that in my watch box right now. I meant to grab that. If you have straps that are outside of, I believe, the stock straps that come with the Royale and the Referee, so we're talking about the the AW 1600 and 1500. You guys know which watch I'm talking about. Casio. Did I say Timex? Casio Royale and Casio Referee. Those straps, and this one happens to be from Vario, right? This is a Vario strap. But I had this in the box and I wasn't using it for anything. But when I came up to this website, as you guys can see, I saw this photo and it says the TimexQ, and then it also has the Royale next to it. And so I realized that I already have a strap additional to it. And I was excited to remove this bracelet because this bracelet is like getting hot wax on your arm. Not going to lie. It looks beautiful though. So I already have a strap and I actually have a bronze on there. And I felt the type of way. I'm like, maybe I should have stainless steel because the bronze doesn't make sense. But then we have faux patina, right? And I think the faux patina, right, matches that bronze because they both show like an aging process to it, if you will. So it kind of goes together. But the red on here, the red on this strap matches this Pepsi bezel as is. Now, here's something I didn't realize about the Q Timex before I pulled the trigger. I didn't realize, that the bezel doesn't click. And I don't care that much because I have so many divers that do the click. It is a Seiko movement, so it's super reliable. We can trust to that. But here's the deal about the movement at the same time, within the same breath. You can't quick change the day. The date you can on this, but the day you cannot, right? And I didn't know that, and that is a bit of a pain in the you-know-what. But at the end of the day, if all my watches did that, that would be annoying. But the fact that this is the only watch that doesn't have the click and doesn't have a quick change for the day, I can live with it. I can make peace with it. Not that much of a big of a deal, I would say. You may not have the typical New York accent, but you sure pronounce like it. I don't. So yeah, other than that, the watch is very thin. I do think that you need to change out the bracelet on it. Now, I haven't tried Speidel bracelets with the TimexQ just yet, but the Vario is something that I live by. I live by. Super supple. And I think the red strap or the red leather strap on this is fantastical. Honestly. Here's the other thing I want to mention before I move on to another watch. Setting the hands, setting the hands are annoying. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of those things, like, you guys know what I'm talking about with a quartz watch when you go to set it on 630 and it moves to 631 or 629 when you push in the crown. Yeah, that happens with it too. But all in all, even still, that being said, I still like the watch, and it's a fantastic watch for me to double wrist. And let me put it back on wrist before I move on to the next thing that I want to talk about with you guys. So strap habit, I haven't owned any straps from them. I was about to pull the trigger until I realized that the Vario did fit it. But if you own a Casio Royale, here's the deal. F91W, Casio Royale, Casio Referee, and the Q Timex all have interchangeable straps, right? So I have my F91 dubs, and the black leather strap to that from Vario also fits the Q Timex, also fits the Royale and the Referee, I believe. So if you own any of those watches, I want to give you guys game to understand that you can swap out straps between them moving forward. So that being said, I wanted to show you guys who I was talking about. This is the guy. When it comes to Timex, when it comes to any Timex, he's got a few Q Timexes, but that's the guy, and he's talking about strap habit in this actual thing. Maybe I'll reach out to Strap Habit, you know what I mean? He has a video specifically on them, and he has a video specifically talking about pairing them with the watches that he has. So that's the GOAT that I'm talking about when it comes to Timex. If you have any questions about Timex, here's the deal. Timex has reached out to Tyree to be a sponsor guy. You know what I mean? So that's the guy. That's the guy. Vario, I have them up, I believe, to show you guys the straps that I was talking about. Yes, this is the straps, I believe. Is this the straps also? Yes. So look, straps for the Casio F91W and the TimexQ. So they're interchangeable, just so you know. And I think it's fantastic to change out the strap for an F91W. You guys all know that it has a resin band, but at the end of the day, if you put a leather strap on it, fantastical. Just saying. I probably should have took that strap out too. Let me catch up on chat. The hand jumping is annoying. Yeah, any quartz watch, it's not just only to this Q Timex. It goes for any quartz watch, in my opinion. if you go to set that minute hand and it jumps, because I'm the type of guy, let me know if you guys do this too. I'm the type of guy that pulls up World Timer New York, right? And then I try to get it down to that's how as close as I can. I don't need the second to be there, but I like to have at least down to the minute when the minute changes over. I don't have to do that, but that's how I like to do it. So when you have a quartz watch that doesn't function with the keyless works and the crown interaction like a mechanical, that's annoying. And a watch that doesn't do that for me and is in my collection and is technically a quartz is the Brew. And we're going to talk about Brew, man. I'm going to bring Brew up again. We're going to talk about them. They are on the last subject matter that we're going to talk about, but you guys know that I have the Brew metric. I love this watch. It's fantastic. They just came out with some new watches, so I do want to throw them in the mix as well. However, this stream, this live, this episode, if you will, is about Speidel bracelets. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of editions that I have for it. So who am I talking about? What am I talking about? This is the company since 1904. I believe it was roughly about 66 years ago where they came out with the Twistoflex is what you're seeing here. They have a lot of options. I purchased 8 of them, okay? And I want to give you guys game. If you are looking at this and you're like, man, this would go good with any of my vintage inspired watches, you would be correct because I actually have them on vintage watches and I'm going to show you guys those watches that I have. And then the wifey had to jump in because she wanted some too. I think that, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to an actual vintage or when it comes to a vintage inspired, you know, having more of a modern movement inside of it, whatever the case may be, I think that this is a home run. And we often, as watch enthusiasts, take shots for not having an on-the-fly adjustable clasp, right? Realize this, if you get this to fit the right way on your wrist, right? This is automatically going to expand on your wrist. This is automatically going to fit for comfort when you have thermal expansion on the wrist on a hot day. So you can kind of get away from being aggro on not having that on-the-fly adjustment on the clasp. Just saying. And again, Mark Well was the one, John Lively, to put me on game for this because he has vintage inspired. You guys seen the reviews. It's actually moved forward with Wristful Ignorance, who's in the chat at this point, and that was the hard candy addition to the enamel dial. He has a Telford case. So when you have that kind of vintage inspired case, especially to have a vintage inspired bracelet, and again, the metric retro Brew gives you that vintage type vibe. And then you got the Expando band on here. Now, that's not to say that the original bracelet isn't fire. And it's not that much of a hair puller. It's certainly not as much of a hair puller as a TimexQ. It pulls a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cap. It does have a taper, so it's fantastic. And it does have micro tooled adjustment. It's done very well. The Brew bracelet to the watch stock, also brushed. Very nice. Doesn't pull as much. But when I got the Brew watch as a birthday gift, I had it in my mind at the same time to get this Speidel bracelet at the same time. Now, what's really cool, and I want to show you guys, if you look at the case back, you see those score lines. They are to reenact, because all about Brew is to actually reenact how an espresso machine is. And on an old school espresso machine, they had vents to let out the steam. Now, those are score lines, and the bracelet actually has those score line looks. So I thought that that was a phenomenal pair with this Brew watch. I love this. I did not take this. I went on honeymoon with this watch for like 2 weeks straight, and I double wrist, so it's easy for me to do that and still rotate my collection. But I love that watch, and we're going to talk about Brew because it's not through. Let me catch up on chat. I'm getting a little silly. Robert Wood is in the building. He steps in. He touches down. Goalpost. What's going on? Welcome in. Michael's in the building. How are you, sir? Let me make sure I'm good on chat. Yes. Okay, so what watches other than the Brew did I pair it with? That's what I want to show you guys. We're here for watches, at the end of the day. So you guys know with this Nomoki. Now, Nomoki's going to release this watch very soon. You guys saw the other build that I did. I released that video, yes? Yes, this is the engineer for the IWC Engineer. Here's the deal about Namoki, yes? They've been heavily focused on vintage inspiration, going all the way back to the SARB 017 inspired build that you can do with them. And yes, this is on a Speidel bracelet as well. They've been on a tear with doing. Now, here's the deal. Seiko still produces this watch technically, but you guys all know that the SARB 017 is no longer attainable from brand new, so you have to buy it secondhand. If you buy it brand new, it's about $1,400. If you're lucky, maybe you can get it sub 1,000, but I doubt it. It's not going to be at great condition. So when they came out with this build, I jumped all over it. In fact, I was super thirsty. I actually went to my point of contact for Namoki, and I was like, I heard you guys are doing something with the Seiko SARB 017. What's going on with that? Super excited to make this build. I made the review video for it. You guys saw it. And I know a lot of you feel like, why would you do a homage of a Seiko? Because if you get the original, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. And now you could still get the Alpinist brand new. It has a different model number. It's part of their, what's the line called? It is called the Prospects line now, right? But to get the original, you can't do. And I think the original was the best in my opinion. And I don't like having the Cyclops on there. So this has no Cyclops, as you guys see with the build. It's a 1-for-1, but it has the Namoki logo on it. And I put it on the Speidel bracelet. Fantastic vintage vibes, I think, altogether. And as time goes on, that will become more relevant to being actually vintage, in my opinion. But my point is this. Namoki's a fantastic company. I love them. And the reason why I like Namoki is because, as you guys know, I like to do watch modifications. Hold on, let me bring me up here. I just realized that I'm yapping on. I like to do watch modifications as part of that. On this channel, you guys are just seeing me go through my journey. I always preach, and it's not because I do collaborations with Namoki only. And by the way, just so you guys know, while we're on topic, they also did a pole router, right? And now you can do a pole router to a dial colorway that's not already offered on the original. And I think pole routers go from anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 hairs. But you can build your own, and you can make it your own, and you can choose the dial and the hands, and you can choose everything else, even the bracelet, of course. And what that does for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, when you build a watch for your picking, and I don't care how you do it. You can do it through AliExpress. You can do it through Namoki Mods. You can do it through SK. It doesn't matter. It's not about who you do it with. It's about actually experiencing that. And yes, I am selling you on the idea of building your own watch. When you build your own watch and you're able to select, it's a two-parter. Number one, you get a genuine appreciation for watchmaking moving forward. You now understand what it takes to put on a second hand. You now understand what it takes to actually shave down the pillars to the dial when you have 4 of them and you have to shave one dial. Then you have to also shave down the actual stem to make it fit to the case. And that sounds like a lot, but I'll tell you this. I've yet to see someone not succeed when building their first watch. It takes time. I could do one in 30 minutes. Somebody brand new is going to take 4 or 5 hours. But it can be done, and it will be done. And here's what it will do for you. You will have a greater appreciation for watchmaking. And because you've selected each part for yourself and you've decided on how you want to put it together, it builds a different connection to that watch altogether. I'm telling you this, ladies and gentlemen, when you build your own watch, you get a different attachment to it. Just saying. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm going to move on. If you have an extra, feel free to leave one. It's downright fun to do. Are we talking about building a watch? Stretchy Straps always, hold on. Stretchy Straps always make me nervous. Might have to check out the, yes. Thank you so much. Restful Ignorance, Simon B, aka the GOAT of kicking you out of the truck. I was nervous about that too. And it makes sense to think that. It makes sense to be nervous about that, right? Because you're like, it's stretchy. It's going to pinch my hairs. It's going to pull them right out. Dude, I'm telling you this right now. I put this watch on, right? I move it down my wrist. I move it up my wrist, down my wrist. I can tell you right now when I'm doing this, not a single hair has been pulled. I've not felt one just now. I swear, I promise you, I'm not selling you on this. I promise you that that's not the case. The only time it's going to pull is if you do this and you move it back and forth, like if you stretch it at the same time and try. Even when you do that, dude, I'm telling you, it doesn't pull hairs. If you own the TimexQ and you own a bracelet like this pulls way more hairs than the actual Speidel bracelet. So if you're in fear that it's going to pull hairs, it's not going to do that. Trust me, I own 8 of them now. Well, technically 4 of mine and 4 for the wife. You know, half of it is hers. But yeah, dude, it just doesn't do that. And I'll put on my brew too, just to give you another effect. So I love this one on the brew. I put this on my wrist. What's nice, dude, because I know, Simon, you drive trucks, bro, and you're on that Moffett, and sometimes you got to change gears and you have to do different things. Sometimes you have a hydraulics, right? You have a hydraulics on the actual truck or the hydraulics on the Moffett, or you may call it a Spider wherever you are. Yeah, I know some things. And you have to get that band out of the way, right? When with other watches that are standard bracelets like this, you got to take that watch off and put it in your pocket. No. Just get it out of the way. Work on those hydraulics. When you're done, flap that bad boy straight up on your wrist. I promise you, I did not get a single hair in that example. Just saying. So with the brew, it's a home run. And I want to make sure I emphasize that I didn't just do that because I thought the stock bracelet on the brew is bad. The stock bracelet on the brew is fantastic. I just had a mindset on this Speidel, and that's why I moved forward with it. So that's just saying. My old school Timex from many years ago, let's put that up screen, mid-80s, had a Twistoflex bracelet on it. A great bracelet. The proof is in the pudding. Just saying. Appreciate you, Michael. Thank you for leaning into my point. So here's another point about the Speidel bracelets that I like the most, right? And let's bring that up screen. I think we're gonna do this. We're gonna move down just so you guys can see a few of them, and they have a lot of selection. Now, let me put you on game. First and foremost, when you go, so this is something that I didn't realize when I was shopping for them. Now you see these close-up shots of the actual bracelet, but what's important when you're shopping them is you do this. Go to this right here. You see how it says size guide, and then you go to the thick, you go to the strap width, right? That's important because not on all of them are they going to be as thick. And I'll give you guys an example, right? If you go, let's say, to this one that's 16 to 22 millimeters on band, and now you're saying to yourself right now, how can a band be 16 millimeters to 22 millimeters? We're going to get into that, but I want to put you guys on game. This is very important. If you go shopping on Speidel, this is your friend, right? Size guide, that's your friend. Click that. This is a strap width of 17 millimeters, okay? So now I bought a bunch of straps that were not at least a 20 millimeter thickness, and that's important to know. And I made it work. I made it made sense because some of them were around thicker size. Where's my calibers? Here's my calibers. So let me give you guys an example. This is the Namoki that I was showing you guys, the Seiko Speed Timer, right? And I bought this band, and it's a little thin. I'll tell you guys right now how thick it is or how wide it is. That's 15 millimeters. Now that's on a 18 millimeter thickness lug width. Okay, so it kind of works because at the attachment it tapers down at the lugs, but mind the strap widthness, mind the strap width when you're buying it. Make sure that you actually pay attention to that, because if you have, like, let's say a 20 millimeter lug attachment, you want a thick strap. Like this thickness would not have worked on my brew. It would have looked silly, especially how it kind of has like a disappear attachment on it. So if you're on the Speidel website, that size guide that I showed you guys is going to be your absolute best friend. And I want to give you guys one more example before I tell you guys what it means to be 16 millimeters and also 22 millimeters at the same damn time. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to make sense of it. So this one, perfect example. That one says strap width of 15 millimeters. I just showed you guys what that looks like. That may be thin for you, right? Especially if you have a thicker wrist than me. I have a 7¼ inch wrist. However, my wrist tends to taper at the joint. You may have one of those thick, rounded wrists. And so having a thin bracelet like this, that's not going to work. So you want to make sure you get at least a 20 millimeter. I digress. Now, let me tell you guys what it means to be a 16 millimeter to 22 millimeters, right? So with Speidel bracelets, at the lug attachment, it can fit anywhere between a 16 millimeter and a 22 millimeter. So as you guys can see, where this lug attachment, where it's different from others, there's springs that are in here, right? So this is not actually a spring bar. This is actually the lug attachment, right? So this is the lug attachment, and the lug attachment has an actual spring system in it. So it can fit a 16, then it can fit a 17, then it can fit an 18, 19, 20, so on and so forth. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And it also comes with a special spring bar, right? So this is not your average spring bar. This has the spring all on one side, as you can see here, and that ejects all the way. It doesn't spring from this side, right? It only springs from one side. So it'll go from a 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up to a 22 millimeters. So super versatile as far as what you can fit for your watch. That matters. That's pretty cool. But just keep in mind, if you take nothing else, keep in mind, heed warning, that you have to pay mind to whenever you like the style, make sure you check the guide and make sure that it doesn't say 15 millimeters if you want 20 millimeters. Just saying. So let me catch up on chat. Where was I? So no cow. Noctua is in the building. Noctua is in the building. JP, how are you, sir? I work with and around my watches, only take them off for really grimy work. Exactly. So if you have a really grimy job, and I gave you an example, if you have your hydraulics on your Moffett, that is really messy. That can be really messy, especially if you're changing out the hose. So then you could just stretch it down. Let's do one more for effect, because I just like doing it just to prove to you guys that it doesn't pull hairs. So you're like, oh man, I gotta change the oil in my car. I've got to change the hydraulic. Just go like that. Boop. Move it down your wrist. Boop. Move it up your wrist. Didn't pull a single hair. Ow. Just kidding. It didn't pull a single hair. My grandfather, yeah, man. And that's Mr. Wood. Pause. That's exactly what I love about it. That's what's so nostalgic about it. Our grandfathers wore this. I'm gonna single-handedly bring these Twistoflex back to the surface. Me and John Lively, maybe we team up. I don't know, because I listen to the community and I understand that the actual adjustment at the class, we call that on the fly, is a thing. But when you have one of these bracelets, you don't have to worry about that. It expands, it Twistoflex, it Expandoflex with the actual temperatures, so long as you don't adjust it too tightly on your wrist. That matters. And we're going to talk about that. This is iced tea, and this is brought to you by Brew Watches. I definitely have to put the paid sponsorship. I didn't get paid, but Jonathan did throw that in for me. He threw in a couple of bracelets, a couple of watches I've already shown you, like the Mark Time watch. Mark Time. The Mark Time watch that was given to the channel. So this has to be a sponsored video at this point. I just realized my watch is backwards. What was I going to say? Let me put you on game. So the fact that the lug attachment is very versatile, and now when you get the actual packaging for it, it'll tell you this will fit a 16 to a 22 millimeter. Again, just pay mind to the actual, width of what you're getting. So that's going to matter as far as what you attach to the watch itself. What was my next thing? Oh, sizing the bracelet, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sizing the Speidel Twistoflex. I'm going to put you guys on game. I went into that very cocky. Because I modify watches, because I've changed so many, like I don't ever take my bracelets to a watch place to have it sized. I think anybody watching this, you guys are watch nerds and watch enthusiasts, so I don't think you do that either, unless it's a very expensive watch and a very expensive bracelet. Here's the deal. I tried to read the actual manual to how to change the links within it, right? Because when you get this, it's going to be extra long, and you're going to have to size it. You're going to have to take some links out. Even if you get, and it has two sizes. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. They have two sizes available that you can choose from. in any of their bracelets. They have okay, so first and foremost, they have a straight end and they have a curved end, right? So for something like my Brew, the curved end didn't work. So mind that for your watches. If it has a very straight attachment on it, like this Brew, this is a very straight attachment. The curved end is not going to work for it. That's first and foremost. So make sure you get that. And then also, you can choose a different size for it. Let me see if I can find it. This is a bad example because this only has regular. Let's see this one. So you have regular and you have XL. They'll give you the size guides to what that fits. Either way, even if you have a 6.5-inch wrist, you're going to have to take some links out. They always give you extra. Do yourself a favor. In this video, in this live stream, I'm going to also add the videos that I watched when I eventually wised up to learn how to change it. It's nothing like you've ever sized before on a bracelet. You will need to follow along a video. I feel personally the instructions that came with it was not enough. It wasn't clear, at least in my opinion. So if you are purchasing this strap bracelet, there just type in Speidel Twistoflex and adjustment or whatever, and follow along step by step with the video. Save yourself, guys. Here's the deal. Let me put me up on screen. This is very important. This is very, very important to what this live. This is nothing like any other bracelet that you've sized. In fact, with this Brew Speidel bracelet that I had, I destroyed this thing. I actually had to go to the mall and have somebody readjust it because I ended up destroying the links. There's clips that are involved that help it expand. There's actual flaps that you have to put back down. It is manageable to do it on your own. But if you try to do this by just reading the manual that comes with it and not watching videos, good luck. And if you get it, you're smarter than me. So do yourself a favor, watch a couple of videos, and then even when you're doing it, follow along to it because it makes a difference. And it will effectively save you, I think I spent like $30. $30. The bracelets alone are $30. So I spent as much as a bracelet to have this one fixed. So do yourself a favor, follow along the videos. I will leave links in the description after this live stream is over. I didn't do that. I only left a link for the actual company, but when this live is over, I will give you guys the ones that I follow along with. Heed my warning. Follow along with those videos. Just saying. What are you guys are saying? What are you guys are saying? I won't believe and don't pull hair. JP, are you calling me a liar, bro? After everything we've been through, After everything we've been through, you're calling me a liar? That's what you're calling me. No. Don't say I'm not calling you. You're calling me a liar, bro. I take that offensively. I'm removing your wrench. I don't believe they don't pull hair until I try one. I have my doubts. Dude, I'm telling you, why would I come on my stream, on my channel, and sell you a dream and sell you a lie? Bro, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look. I'm telling you right now, bro, not a single hair has been removed. It didn't pinch me at all. And I'm telling you something, this TimexQ is way more of a hair puller than this Speidel bracelet. Bro, I digress. What's up, Chad? Eric Mack is in the building. I call him Big Mac on Friday. How you doing? He's laughing. All right, so where was I? So yes, follow along on the videos when it comes to doing it. I want to show you guys a few of them that I have. Whoa, stop. I shake the camera too much. I did do this. I put it on my actual Amphibia as well, ladies and gentlemen. I have one on here on my Amphibia, right? My Vosto. This was the 18 millimeter as well. So I made it work. I made it make sense. I think this one, where's my calibers? I need an assistant. Hold on. Right here. This one is in with 16 millimeters. Okay, so it's going from an 18 millimeter at the lug attachment to a 16. So it's not so bad, but if I had to put this on a 20 millimeter lug attachment, it would look silly. So it works, and I made sense, but heed my warning. Make sure you get one thick enough, and it works for this as well. Fantastic. They have brushed and polishing on here, and I use the one that's brushed more so on the tool watch because it makes sense, right? I have it on my Vosto Amphibia. And one thing that I noticed about the cues on my wrist, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, how we doing? One thing I noticed about the Q as well, I don't know if I could show you guys, but on the side here, ooh, I don't know if I could come up on camera, but there's a little bluing in there. You see it right there? Right there. You see the bluing in between the bezel itself? I thought that was a fantastic touch. And what I did on my Vosto Amphibia, shout out to Teddy Baldazar for giving me the itch to buy one because you had to have one in your collection. I did the same thing on this actual bezel itself. So did a little modification on that to match the second hand. And I have that vintage feel on it. And it gives you like a vintage field watch on that, right? It has the numerals emphasized and everything else. You guys know that this is a diver. I think this is a 200-meter water resistance. It is. And as you guys know on Vostox, they have a funky chicken crown. They have that loose crown, so you don't have a defect if you do release the crown on there and it's wobbly. But that's another watch. And what I found is with the 15-millimeter width for the band, it works for 18-millimeter attachments. That makes sense. But just make sure that you get the thicker one if you are looking for that. Now, moving forward, those are more so like this is more of a vintage inspired, right? This is more of a vintage inspired with the Speidel. This is more of a vintage inspired with the Speidel, right? Where's my brew on my wrist? This is more of a vintage. But what happens when you actually have a vintage watch? Yes, I'll tell you, it works phenomenally. And I have a couple of my wife watches too over here somewhere. Here we go. When you actually have a vintage watch, right? And this is my Pobita champagne dial, right? 18-millimeter. This also works with it, all right? You got the Speidel strap on there. Fantastic. So if you actually, and this is an actual vintage watch, if you actually, blued hands on there, by the way, too. Hold on. Booyah. Blued hands on there. I love this watch. It's fantastic. If you actually have a vintage-inspired watch, and it has smaller lug attachments on there, you're good to go. Because again, when you have that, when you purchase that strap, it's going to tell you 16 millimeters to 20 millimeters. So effectively fitting an 18 millimeter because at the lug attachment, you have springs for the actual lug attachment itself. So it works, right? It works fantastically. So let me make sure chat is good. You guys are grand. Let's move on. So I have a couple of them on my wife's watches. Of course, we have the Erebus Aventurine. She stole that from me, just saying. She stole that from me because I have the Venetianico Rendendore Aventurina. And she's like, what do you need another Aventurine for? And I'm like, I have no argument. So I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm super excited about the Speidel bracelet as well is because that's when she finally admitted that she may be a watch enthusiast too. Just saying. So I think I effectively converted her at this point. But here it is on an Erebus. I think that looks fantastic. You have the Gata Aventurine. You guys know that this thing is specced out. Now, it felt a little funny, not going to lie, to switch out the bracelet for the Erebus because Erebus makes a fantastic spec for their bracelet. They have the quick release. They have the on-the-fly adjustment. They have, that one is a, what do we call that one? We can't call it, what do we call that? My God, it eludes me. So we're going to move on. But at the end of the day, I think it looks fantastic. And not for nothing, I don't know if I could pick this up on camera. You guys see that bracelet detail on there? Doesn't that look like a meteorite, like a meteorite dial? I think if you paired this with a meteorite dial, you have to call the fire department. Just saying. You guys are good on chat? Guys are good on chat. All right, so another watch that she has it on because she jumped the bandwagon. I'm going to show you guys this one. This one has a cool design on it. And you guys can see this all from the website as well. But this has more of like a zigzag design, right? You have to generally take out more links for this. But this has like a zigzag design for the Speidel. Fantastic. Polished. You want to mind the polished and the brush. I don't know why this has so much lint. She has to get a watch box. She admitted, my wife, that she needs a watch box at this point because she has a collection. And she's now a watch enthusiast. This is another actual rendition. And again, it makes more sense for her wrist because she has a 6.5-inch wrist calibers. And this one is, again, 15 millimeters. So there's a lot of them that were 15 millimeters. And that's the one thing that I ran into. I did not, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. When you look at the website and you're looking at the different options, to be fair, like, doesn't all of these look like at least 20 millimeters plus? They're not. That's the thing. The one you're looking at with the zigzag is this one, right? That looks like a 20 millimeter. Now, when we got it in RL, this is a 15 that it came in. So you got to mind, again, the actual details to the size itself. And that's why I wanted to emphasize that and make sure you understood that. Now, where was I? I think that was it for the Speidel bracelets. I had a few of them. I showed you guys all of them. I showed you guys this one as well with the Nomoki mods. I have them on a bunch of watches as is, man, and it's fantastic. I implore you guys, and listen, we're talking about $30 a bracelet. It's not so bad. Yeah, I'm pushing this one on you guys. And no, I'm not sponsored by them at all. But when it comes, and here's the deal. For some reason, with my watch collecting, I've been leaning naturally more towards vintage inspiration. For some reason, that's been what's captivating me. Again, I had the Q Timex that I recently put in my collection. I went with the Brew as far as the selection for a birthday gift. It's just been a thing where vintage inspiration, Ingenieur, you know what I mean, from Nomoki. It's just been a thing where I've gravitated towards vintage inspiration moving forward for some reason. I don't know. And I like that. When you talk about where should I go next with my collection, and when you talk about having about 40 plus watches, I don't know the exact count, but I know I'm around 40. It's tough to decide what the next move is. Yes, it makes sense to maybe choose something that you don't have in your collection yet. I can easily say that I don't yet have, what's something I don't have in my collection? Hurry up and think about it. Enamel, right? I had enamel watches on my channel. In fact, I still have this Vario watch, right? I have enamel, technically, which gives the dials a wet look to them, but I don't have one that I own. And I can easily say, hey, I need an enamel dial. I need a whatever it may be. But I'll be honest with you, I'm waiting for a watch to speak to me, and I naturally gravitate to it to decide what I'm going to do next. And that's exactly what I did with the Brew. Now, sure enough, Nomoki has teamed up with me to do those builds for their watches. So that's why I naturally have some of those watches in here. Matter of fact, let's do a whole Nomoki. These are all Nomoki. And as you guys can see, like, these were the last. Wait a minute. Hang on. Let me gather myself. Here we go. These are the last Nomoki watches, right? And they went all vintage inspiration. I love that. I think that's a big subject for people to gravitate to without having to worry about it actually needing a service and how the movement is and everything else. I've seen Nomoki lean into it. Maybe that has some, inspiration to my decisions as is, but I don't think so, because at the end of the day, I walked away with this Brew and I absolutely love it. I can tell you this, one of the things that I have for interest moving forward is supporting my local micro brands. You guys know that I'm all about micro brands as is. I love supporting them. I think that they have a lot of fire in their belly. I feel like they have a lot to prove. I think that they do fantastic things. Yes, they have a lot of on the shelf type of vibe to them. Not all of them. Some of them give us things that we don't see in other brands. Just saying. Let me catch up on chat. I'm seeing some things pop up. Hold on one second. Hold on. I already changed the bezel. Hang on. Let me go back. I already changed the bezel on my Vostok because I like yours. And now here goes the bracelet. Eric Mack, I understand that with great power comes great responsibility. And therefore, I make sure that I realize that what I'm giving you guys is fully vetted, fully validated. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm opening your wallet. But I'll tell you what, bro, just like how you probably don't regret the bezel, cost some coin. But it probably looks fantastic because I did the same thing for my Vostok. I changed the bezel as is too, right? But you're not going to regret the Speidel bracelet either, don't. Just saying, man. And I promise you, I don't get anything from them. But I don't think you regret it either. Let me know. Eric Mack, do you regret the influence that I have on you? Speak now. Or forever hold your peace. Let's see. The engraved texture is lovely. Yes, you're talking about... Matter of fact, I have an extra one of this. You're talking about this one, the engraved, kind of like this pattern in it. This gives me a, what did I say before? A meteorite. This has like a meteorite pattern to it. That's fire, bro. If you put this on a meteorite watch, bro, yes. Fire. What's good, everyone? Ben 10 is in Ben 10 news. For some reason, I gotta say Ben 10 news. Ben 10's in the building. What's going on, bro? You say I think that you hit enter too soon. Oh, that's a two-tone hits different. The two-tone hits different? Damn. Which one were you talking about? Oh, the two-tone on, hold on, I got you. They have a lot of two-tones, bro. They actually also have, let me put you on game. Thank you so much, Simon. Let me put you on the PVD, bro. They even got PVD, bro. That's a little bit more doll hairs. And again, please check the size and guide. This one's 19 millimeters, so if you're putting it on a 20 millimeter strap, you're fine. They do have two tones. They do actually also have some tapers. A lot of them also are for female. Like, you guys remember the wristlets? Who knows about wristlets? You don't know about that. What do you know about watch history? Before men actually put watches on their wrists, before it was an actual thing, here's the deal. Back in the day, if you put a watch on your wrist and you were a man, it was considered to be rude. You had pocket watches, they remained in the pocket, and if you had it exposed, it was deemed to be that you were not enjoying yourself and you got to leave. After World War I, that was a thing. Prior to that, women wore watches on the wrist, and they were called wristlets. And so they also have bracelets that match for women's watches as well. They have PVD coated. They have two-tone. They have, what's it called, the pink metal? It is called, you guys know what I'm talking about. Hang on one second. I'll be right with you. When you go live, baby, you start forgetting things. I'm just saying. Hold on. I'll tell you right now. This is rose gold. Rose gold. Jesus, Mary and Joe's. Rose gold. Rose gold. They even have rose gold, which I was surprised. I thought wifey was going to go for it because you guys know my builds that I did for her. I did a lot of rose gold builds and she didn't just go for it. They also have Fitbits. They also have Apple Watches. I know that's a no-no. I just got canceled for saying it, as a matter of fact. I have my eyes on a taper that they have. I actually put my email in for them to let me know. There's like a curved lug, and there's also like a taper one that I'm looking for. Let's see if I could find it. Let's see if I can find it. It's higher up. I know that. I've been on the website more than I'd like to admit, honestly. I think this is the tapered. So this one's fire. This is the tapered version. It's out of stock, and for good reason. It's very popular. So you could get the gold, you could get the rose gold. The black is out of stock, and the silver is out of stock. You can place your email here. But it goes from, where's the actual size guide? Here we go. Size guide. 18 millimeters to a 15 millimeters. That would be fuego. That would be fuego. And I'm also looking for, they have another one that's a super curved lug. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Let's see if I can. But I'm also waiting for an email on that too. Hang on one second. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with the learning professional. Is that it? Curved lug. That's also out of stock if I'm not mistaken. Let's go down to all silver. Yep. Send me an email. So that's out of stock too. But this is an actual curved lug attachment. This is just to give you an idea of what that curved lug looks like. So if you have like those divers, like those Seiko divers, I don't have anything curved over here, do I? Not really, but you guys know what I'm talking about. If you have any of those Seiko curved curved cases, this is going to match handsomely, I think, on it too. So I'm waiting for an email for them to let me know when it's back in stock. So that being said, let's go back. Shift 1. There we go. I'm wearing my Rolex Air King around the 60s and 70s watch. I should stop now. Nah, man, you can't stop. You've got the sickness. Don't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. And why not put a vintage strap on it? Just saying. I'm an enabler today. I'm just saying. What's good? Okay, rocking a pre Markwell watches hard candy. Yes, sir, you are. Yes, sir, you are. And it has my fingerprints on it still, I think. See what I did there? You only have a problem past 199. You only have a problem past 199 watches. Dude, I'm trying my very best to keep it around 50 watches. That's also a struggle already. Markwell is killing it with the beautiful enamel dials. I agree, dude. Eventually, I'll put an enamel dial in my collection, but here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to pull a trigger on a watch just because it has an enamel dial. Yes, I want to be fully in love. I want it to give me butterflies. I want it to be more than that. I want it possibly to be a spec monster, but it doesn't have to hold all the bells and whistles. I've talked to you guys about how crown size matters. That's probably the most important thing. But I think that the design factor, maybe also the movement, because in movements, I'm also moving up to being appreciative of higher calibers and having higher specifications and everything else. And we're going to get into that too, because Brew just did something dirty, I think, in a good way. Wearing my PD Speedy homage. Nice. I actually don't plan on shopping because collecting is endless. Dude, yeah. I think there's nothing wrong with hitting the slow motion button. You got to hit the slow motion button. And you got to catch yourself while you're going down that road. I think that that's what happened. You tell yourself, this year, I'm only buying 3 watches. And then come January, you have 3 watches already. I think at that point, you got to say, I'm moving a little too fast for myself. Let me slow it down to some degree. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you have a larger collection. You have to be able to pace yourself, and that's important. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then also look at what you have and see what you can move on from first, right? Before you keep adding to the number. I think maybe you want to sell some watches. Maybe you want to give some watches away. I give watches away because I don't have watches of your caliber, Mr. Ben 10 News. I actually give my watches away when I move on from it. And a perfect example of that, I'll bring up the TimexQ again. Is it right side up? Now it is. So the TimexQ is actually an example of that because I had the Weekender. This replaced the Weekender is the first one that I had. Then I got bougie and I was like, I want something a little nicer than the Weekender. And so I went from that to the Q Timex, and I gave my watch away to a younger watch enthusiast that's actually on YouTube. And I felt good about that. And plus, what was I going to sell that Weekender for? $2. Just saying. Where we at? Natural light, the enamel is spectacular. I think any light. I think that the fact that it plays with the light very differently from, let's say, if you're talking Markwell, he has the Fume on there. But if it's just one straight enamel color, like here's what I like to say about it. If you have like the Vario, now this is a black enamel, but it steps away from that flat black or whatever color it is, and it gives it kind of like that wet look, right? You guys, I don't know if you guys know about pavers, right? When you have concrete pavers and then you do the wet look sealer and it brings the vibrancy to the color even more so. I think enamel effectively does that despite the fact, but that's why I'm even more. I wish I still had the Markwell. Shout out to Simon B. Wistful Ignorance is in the building. Having that Fume on there to add to that wet look or add to that kind of vibrancy to color is phenomenal. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Take a look at Stram dials, Ben 10. Okay, that was not for me. I would like to try one. I would like to try one in person. Eric, which color? Farrah is killing it for me. Farrah is a very, very, very good company. They are cranking out some very nice watches. Most recently, the small dials, dress watches. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very, very true. Different light. I actually thinking about modding other watches in my collection. Seems like a slippery. It is a slippery slope, bro. It's a slippery slope. Here's the deal. I started off with one watch that I modded. As a matter of fact, my old logo was the watch that I first modified. And that, my friend, turned into this. You know what this drawer is filled of? This drawer is filled of just watch hands. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see it? This drawer has nothing but actual NH35, NH30, whatever you want to call it, 36, 35, not the 34 because that's a GMT. It's a slippery slope, bro. But here's the deal. I think there's such a thing, and we talk about one and done as far as it being a mythological creature. But I think there's such a thing as one and done when it comes to modifying a watch. I think that you can go through that experience, appreciate it, and not want to dive off the deep end as is. You're in a very dangerous territory, and I'll tell you why. You decided, and I always recommend this way, but I also understand the dangers. Maybe I didn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you now. If you just do something like a Vosto Amphibia, and I forget the model number to this. Shout out to Teddy Baldassar. I said that already. If you do something like this, and you just modify the actual bezel to it, right? You get the itch. When you build the watch entirely, you kind of experience all the parts at once, and you can step away from it a little bit easier. So that's what I'm saying. JP, you knew? Yeah, bro. His new watch release, Noctua watches, is in the building. That new watch release is fire, bro. I'm all about the Noctua watch for sure. I'm sure modding is addictive as well. Yeah, it is. It is, dude. Like, who are we kidding? Like, when I said 2025 is going to be about the strap, which is on theme for today's subject matter, but who are we kidding, bro? Straps cost money, and it's very easy. So it's so much harder to say I'm going to buy 8 new watches, right? It's very hard to say that. However, these Speidel bracelets, I bought 8 of them. So that is effectively around $200 hairs, right? So I could have bought a watch with that for sure, but it can add up very quickly. And actually, you can get kind of lost in keeping track of that as well. So I think that modifying, buying parts, buying straps, it can be a saving grace to fill that itch, but you have to also control that as well, to be fair. Thanks, bro. Ben Watch, Fistful, Black Dot, Rose Gold, Sick, micro brands. It's kind of a dominating because they're supplying other people rather than catering to the rich. Ew! Wait, this is coming from a guy who owns Rolex. Yo, should I talk about a spicy topic right now? Did you guys I'm going to talk about it, bro. I'm going to talk about it because nobody's really talking about it. You know what I'm talking about? I know you guys have seen some videos online by now. Have you guys seen the stuff about the luxury segment? And I'm not going to mention no names because I don't want to get in any trouble. But have you guys seen the topic of luxury brands being outed by China? How they're saying that they're being manufactured in China? How do you guys feel about that? Let me know in chat. I'm gonna pass the rock to you guys. Hey, beautiful. Wifey's home. Vincent H is in the building. He says hello. Hello, sir. I seen Rolex sub for 11K. I was tempted to become basic and join the Brady Bunch of sub owners. Oh, so you don't even own a sub yet. That's interesting. See, I'm super basic, dude. If I was gonna go Rolly, I would go with sub. And I don't care. I don't care if you say, oh, but that's so basic to go with the sub. I don't care. That's what I like. If I was to go Rolly, I would go sub. Just say, I'm with you, bro. Pull the trigger. If it makes you happy and you got the means, do it. Do it now. Mark Well has avid 5-digit Rolex collection. What? Mark Well has an avid 5-digit Rolex collector. It's dope to see his creativity. Yeah, dude. I was fully impressed, dude. I did not expect the hard candy enamel. No way. No way. In a good way. And he actually put me on game for these Speidel bracelets. So, I mean, I severely hope that he's able to make a deal with Speidel and attach those. Because right now, he doesn't have any bracelets for his, I don't think he has any bracelets. But I think with that Telford case, and if you guys are not sure what I'm talking about, check out Markwell watches. He's got Telford cases. And I think that with these Speidel bracelets to the Telford case, enamel, so you're now mixing modern enamel fume, vibrant color, with vintage inspired cases. Let's go. With the Speidel bracelet, game over. I know he's selling them things. I know he's selling them things. And I love the fact that I was able to part of it, man. He's honestly like off the record, John Lively, and I'm sure Alex Record is also a phenomenal human being. But John Lively's just a cool dude. Like just to chat with him on text, he's just a cool dude. And I'm happy for them. And I'm glad that I was able to put his watch on my channel. I'm proud of it and I'm happy for it. And I wish them all the best. Sell watches. Sell watches, foul language. Nah, dude, that's a thing. Simon B, just because you hold on to all your watches doesn't mean that other people don't sell them. Don't be a snob. Stop it. Here's the deal. Some people purchase watches that have more value after the fact. And is that exclusively to high-end pieces? Absolutely not. And we experience this from, let's say, a Zelos when it's sold out. Aftermarket, right? So just saying. Sometimes, listen, dude, sometimes selling watches gives you the funds. Listen, some people flip, some people sell, they roll that into the next piece. Some people don't buy 50 watches like that, and they buy 10. And then what they do is instead of buying more watches in volume, they'll take the value of what they purchased and roll it into the next piece and upgrade, right? Get something of higher value. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I personally don't buy watches for their value for money, but I still respect that and I love that for them. If they're able to do that, more power to them. Each time I set a rule for a number of watches, great things happen in my life, and then I'm like, what I deserve. And you do, sir. If you're working hard, you got to play hard. So if it's within your means responsibly, here's the deal, Ben 10 News. Just because you can't afford a watch doesn't mean you should. That's my slogan for myself. Matter of fact, I think we were talking in chat. And there are other responsibilities and priorities that are, of course, more important. And I'm talking outside of your four walls. I'm talking outside of your food. We talked about investing in your future, yes? So I feel like that if I make sure that I invest in my future and I put all those eggs in that basket first, then I should be able to play as much as I want to. So at the end of the day, dude, if you are reaching success, you should absolutely celebrate that. Matter of fact, while we're on topic, this is a watch that I celebrated very much so. And some of you might laugh. That's okay. That's okay. But I celebrated a great success with this watch. This is my Tissot PRX Powermatic 80, right? I had a very successful move in my career, and I celebrated with that watch. It was my first Swiss-made watch. I don't care if it has plastic parts. I don't care. To me, it is absolutely luxury. It is absolutely Swiss-made. Tissot has a very long line of history and everything else. And the bracelet on this bad boy, I don't think metal gets any supple than actually on the Powermatic 80, right? And for me, this was actually a mark in success and everything else. So listen, you gotta celebrate with watches if you have some success in your life, and don't feel bad about it, so long as you're taking care of those responsibilities. Let me catch up on chat. That's dope, Skyline. Material, so much material and tools. Facts. I appreciate you. As a modder, you are a watch sculptor. Stop my head. My head doesn't fit on screen. I appreciate you though. Yo, they heard that, babe. What are you doing to me? This is live. I can't edit this out. Ben 10 with the super chat. I appreciate you, boy. Hit that super chat voice one time for your boy. You see, I didn't even read the text and I already hit it for you. Matter of fact, Ben 10, I'll hit it for you again. Ben 10 News with the super chat. I appreciate you, bro. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? I hope you guys can't hear. I hope you guys can't hear. Where were we going with this topic? Where were we going from here, ladies and gentlemen? That's what I want to know. Hang on. It's going to come to me. It's going to come to me. Hold on. Brewski. We're going to end. You like that, Ben 10, huh? Super chat. Brew. We're gonna end off with Brew, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the deal. They are New York based. I believe in supporting your homegrown web brands. We're going through a time right now. And here's the deal. We're going to tackle some very controversial topics. And if you missed it in the beginning, I implore you to watch the very beginning of this live stream because I am going to add more value to the channel. I do have members, member perks that are coming forward. I do want to put more money into the channel as far as being able to buy watches, as far as being able to buy more gear. I love doing this. And so if you missed it, replay the beginning and you'll see what I'm talking about. But let's talk about Brew, baby, because I'm actually very fired up about what Jonathan Ferrer is doing in his moves moving forward. And I'm going to bring up on screen what I'm talking about. Let me make sure chat is good. Ben likes it. Should I do it one more time, Ben? I think your super chat's good for a minute, bro. Let me know, Ben. Let me know if I should do the super chat kind of thing that I do. I'll do it one more time for you. Escapement Show is in the building. What are we talking about? What a thing to bring up, Skylar. The Twist Flex bracelets are so cool, dude. And it's not my. It didn't come from me, bro. It came from the community, and part of that community is Mark Well, and the gentleman that I'm talking about specifically is called John Liley, and he's the one that actually made me privy to these Twist Flex Speidels, and therefore I was motivated to come up on here and talk about it. So it's all interconnecting. It's all webbed up. And that's what I want to make this channel all about. That's why I want your guys' input in how I could add more value for the membership perks moving forward, because I don't want it to be just a paywall, and I don't want to just put my hand out. I want more value, therefore I will give you more value. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's talk about Brewski. And the subject that I'm actually talking about in particular is the new watch that he has out now. Now, my man Jonathan's in the lab. Here's what he's doing. So first and foremost, he came out with this automatic. Now, this was an NH35. You can see that from the specifications. Now, I'm going to be fair. I am a Brew fan for sure, right? I showed you guys the Brew glass that I have right here, right? Yeah. You see that? You see now? But what's fair is fair. Hold on one second. I do apologize. When we talk about website audits, I need Jonathan today to add a loom shot to his watches to these photos, right? That's first and foremost. He added this video. That's cool. And then some of the watches, like the all loom dial, where it makes sense, right? He added the loom. But even on his normal watches, I need loom shots. I need specifications for the crown size because crown size matters, right? But he came out with this automatic watch. Let's stay on topic. NH35A. And when you talk about Brew, we're talking about 10 years in the making. Yeah. So for him to wait a decade to come out with his first automatic, which let's pay mind to the thickness. Here's how my mind works. And this is also a limited edition. This is one of 500, right? Hold on one second. So he finally steps into the automatic line, which I was super excited about. I knew personally, because I talked to him, that he wasn't done yet. I just didn't want to say anything because I have respect for him. And it wasn't technically an embargo, but I didn't want to tell you guys a Swiss movement was coming. But I think you knew the writing was on the wall, because when you have a watch company that's a decade old, it's safe to assume if their first watch in automatic mechanical atmosphere is a NH35, you would assume that the next step is either a Miyota or a SW200 or a Le Joux Perret. And I'm pretty sure that based off of how his dimensions are in the case and everything encompassing, it probably was a better move for the SW200, not only for the availability, but also for its dynamic and its actual specification to fit within the dynamic of his case size, right? I digress. So we went from NH35 here, and I think that, was there more than one model for the NH35? Am I mistaken? I think there was just one. But soon after, coming out of left field, he came out with these two manual wines, right? And again, let's go back to the specifications because that's very important to the point. This has a thinness, right? We don't say thickness when it's under 12 or 11. This has a thinness of 10.75 millimeters, yes? So from that, and that's impressive. We're talking about an NH35 still with a does this have a rotor actually? I believe this still does have a rotor. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, if this in fact has a rotor for an NH35, being 10.75, sub 11 millimeters in thickness is still impressive, right? We're used to seeing, that's because we're numb to the fact that we're used to seeing the divers being at 12, 13 millimeters. So thickness matters, especially when you're going for a retro vibe, especially when you have a square shape. I knew he wasn't done yet. Now, he decided to segue into this, which is a manual wind. Now, this is the one that I see most advertised. This is the metric manual wind gray. Let's take a look at the specifications. Now, we can expect, because it's a manual wind, there's no rotor, to be thinner. 8.5 millimeters. Yo, is even the quartz as thin as that? Let's take a look at that. I should know this offhand, but I don't. The thickness of this quartz chrono is 10.75, right? Which is the same as we mentioned before, the NH35 specifications. Stay with me, slow down for you catch up. 10.75, yes. But now we have a Swiss made movement. Specification 8.5 millimeters. 8.5 millimeters. That's fantastic. And look at the design. I love it. I love the design. Definitely still within that retro, right? But here's the deal. This is the one that I've seen most advertised. And when we stepped away from the chrono, we noticed that coffee bean is at the 12 o'clock position relative to the center of the dial. We have a sector dial that graduates to a lighter outside. He has, I think, still that metallic bezel, not bezel, but you guys know what I'm talking about. This part here, this part here, fantastic. Looks good on wrist. We know it's thinner. So let's go back. But here's what I didn't realize. This bad boy right here, he has a blue dial way. It makes sense. Make it make sense. If you're going to come out with a new edition, you have to have a blue color dial way, in my opinion. And he's done that. That also is 8.5 millimeters. This is the blue colorway. And here's what I thought, guys. And okay, wait, before I do that, let's look at the specifications. What's the movement? That's important. SW2101B, right? Now, with Speidel movements, there's different levels to the game, right? You have the elaborate, you have the different levels. And now he's not stating on here that anything is regulated. He's not stating that anything is level. So we have to imagine that this is the actual standard level for Speidel, right? Which is fine. It does its job. One of 25 already sold out. And I was a little nervous about the price point, but he still sold out of that one. The other version is still in stock. But what do you guys think about this move? I want to know what you guys think, because that's important. What do you guys think about the Swiss movement over from that? I think that's a big jump, right? Because he could have did Miota. He went straight to Swiss. Manual wind. I personally, and yes, I am biased because I love Brew. I love Jonathan. I love the brand. I love his team. I love his watches. I'm not going to cap. He's from New York. How you doing? But at the end of the day, he just came out with the NH35 and he jumped over to the Swiss. He skipped Miota. I think it was a good move. Well played. Well played. Do I have criticism? Of course I do. I'll let you know what the deal is. I think that maybe he should have gave a different, like, listen, old me would have said, like, hold on, let me, old me would have said this. Old me would have said that, wait, hold on. Here we go. Old me would have said, if you went with the Swiss movement, you should have done a diver on the fly adjustment on the bracelet. It's just not as important with me anymore, honestly. With that, I'll be honest with you. That's not the most important thing. However, I think that there was a missed opportunity with this Swiss movement within his watches having the manual wind to give a different bracelet, right? I think that it's fantastic that he did a automatic movement. I think it's fantastic that he graduated to a Swiss made movement very quickly. I think he should have gave us a new bracelet. Beads of rice, mesh, right? I don't know. Am I being nitpicky? I think that there should have been a little bit more refreshment. You could have kept the clasp the way it is. Of course, you want to keep the quick release, right? Because as I'm becoming more of a snob to my expectation to bracelets, that's something that I love. Do I know how to use a tool to remove a bracelet very quickly? I do. But having the quick release is just, like that. And that I rather have over the on-the-fly adjustment at the clasp. I know that's crazy, but that I'm just saying. But I think that he should have gave us a refresher on the bracelet. That's my opinion on it. I don't know how you guys feel, but fantastic. What are we talking about here? What a three. I read that one. New brew dial. Yeah, bro. The new brew dial, bro. Don't get me started. I'll start all over again. I'll start from the top. Yes. I think he hit a home run. That blue dial for sure, bro. I'm not even surprised that this is sold out. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm just realizing now that this was only 25, so that kind of makes sense. So how many of these are out there? The gray dial, which is also fantastic. I'm glad that he did gray rather than black, to be honest with you. It's within specification. Hold on. Specifications. 1 of 100. Okay, I'll tell you what. This watch is going to be sold out in 2 weeks. I'm going to give it 2 weeks. It's probably going to be less than that. That watch is going to be sold out. And then with the automatic NH35, I think it was only this. But I'll be honest with you, if you're curious to know where I want to go here. Because I don't know if JP's still in the building, but I'll let you know right now, I need an all-lume dial. And the reason why I need an all-lume dial is because my wife stole my Noctua. She put it on leather. She created the ultimate sin. Not going to lie. I like my divers on leather straps too. I'm a bad boy. I don't know what it is. The Duro on a leather strap, I'm telling you, if you haven't tried, here's the deal. Be honest. Be honest with me. Be honest with yourself. You're not diving. In fact, you want 200 meters of water resistance and you don't even go in a pool. Come on. Be honest with me. Put your diver watchers on a leather strap. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's forbidden fruit. But diver on leather, all for it. Is that fitting for what we're talking about here? No, because this is not a diver, but I need an all-lume dial because my wife stole my Noctua watches. She said, yeah. So I need an all-lume dial, and I need another excuse to buy a watch. And not for nothing, this is a super affordable, at least in my wheelhouse, watch as is. So just saying, that's all I had, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple more watches. Maybe I'll just throw it on screen just so you guys can see it while I have it with me. Let me change. I think it's shift 1. If you have any questions about Speidel, please ask the question now because we're going to land this plane. The wheels are down. The wife says land it. Yo, come on camera. Oh no. She's not properly dressed to be on camera. Yeah, man. So just to drive the point home, to be honest with you, I showed you guys my Mark time watch, right? That's the reason why I like to keep watches. Here's the deal, guys, and I need your opinion. Seriously, like this, all jokes aside, I know I'm a little bit of a entertainer here, but here's the seriousness of the channel right now. I need to know what your feedback is about me doing membership only stuff. I'm going to do lives that are specifically for it. They're going to be a little different than the lives here. They're going to be a little bit more spicy. And the point of it is for me to be able to put more money into the channel, for me to have a greater reach, to get better, or not better, but to get watches on the channel for those who don't believe in sending watches out to do reviews. I want to cover the full gamut for micro brands, web-based brands, as I like to say, watch enthusiast brands. Stuff like this. I have my Venetianico, not Rendendore. Which one is this one, babe? Venetianico. Audio. Yeah. Audio. I still have that watch in my collection that was given to me for a review. I keep my watches because I want to continue to show you them as they are relative to the live streams. So here's the deal. I don't want you to feel like I'm putting the channel behind a paywall because that's not the case. You're still going to get my edited long form. You're still going to get these Friday rants. I'm just going to do another live and I'm going to make it rated R. It's going to be more raw. It's going to be more uncut. It's going to be more behind the scenes. But let me know what you would like to see. I want to develop that together. I want you guys to be part of what you want to see in the mix of things and everything else. So ask your questions now because we are going to land this plane. Lone Ranger, I'm going to need a refund from you because you came in when the landing gear is down. Just saying. Hi-Ho Silver, Lone Ranger's in the building. Appreciate you, bro. Escapement, let me get to you. I jump. Oh, hold on. Let me catch up on chat. One thing. Okay, new dial. Okay, I like what you said about the swish movement. I like what you said. A swish movement is an what? Event. Yes, absolutely. The jump to Swiss will naturally bump the price up, of course, but they often pay off. I think, yeah, dude, I agree with you. You're right. Fresher bracelet. Thank you, bro. Just saying that was just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Listen, you have to cover because here's the deal: when you're Brew, and I've been to Wind Up, New York. I'm sure Jonathan and his team has heard time and time again, automatic, and if you're going to do automatic, Swiss. So you got to cover the bases. It's only a smart business thing to do moving forward. And I'll tell you what, man, he waited until he had first class and everything. When I talk about the packaging to the bracelet, when I talk about the packaging overall, watch my video. My last live was all about Brew. Everything is first class. So I love that he waited a decade before moving forward. However, when you get to the point where everything is polished, the natural progression is to move into Swiss. Maybe you do Salida, maybe you do Etta, maybe you do Le Jouperet, whatever. But there's definitely people that value Swiss-made movements before. There's people who only value watches by the movement, period. So you have to cover all your bases if you want to continue to be successful. I'm glad that you agreed that the refresher for the bracelet is a thing. Maybe Jonathan watches this, and maybe that is something already in the works. I'm just giving my constructive criticism, and I hope it's received well. I mean no harm other than giving my opinion as a watch enthusiast, and the community agrees as far as it goes. So another cool American brand I've been looking at as Autodrome, inspired by, yes, I've heard of them. I believe you are a fan of their styling. I definitely know the name. Right now, it eludes me to the actual design, Escapement Show. So I do have to look into that, and I will. I know that I made a list of all New York-based brands. I've reached out to all of them, and I'm working on it. Let's say that. And that's part of what I'm talking about, right? Like, a lot of the New York brands haven't been responsive. Maybe they're busy. I'm not mad. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, if I could afford at least a discounted version to get their watch on this channel to make it relevant to the conversation that we're having, and me being able to take the watch apart, not literally, but actually spec-wise, I think there's a lot of value in that. I think you guys appreciate how I break down watches as is. We eventually will do a deep dive review of this. That's the Brew watch is not on wrist. Excuse me. I will do a deep dive review on this, and I don't care if it's not something that's new. I still want to give you, and my reviews are not about anymore naming all of the specifications or naming all of the highlights in detail about the watch. It's more about my overall feel. It's all about my experience with watches to compare to what they have on offer. And I think you guys appreciate that. And on these live streams, I do also offer audits on these web-based brands as well. And I don't want to hurt those web-based brands. What do I mean by that? When those brands offer the channel a watch to keep, fantastic. I still show them, like the Erebus, like the Venetianico, you know, I still show them, so it still helps. But at the end of the day, I would like to at least cover the cost of unit, right? So that's just my thing about it as well. And I appreciate you, man. And of course, I've heard of Autodrome, but I haven't heard a response from them. To be fair, All right, let's catch up on chat, and then we got to land this plane, guys. I'm sorry. My wife says I keep saying that. What is the maximum price range of watches that you feel is comfortable wearing without any worry? Escapement Show. Are you talking about? So what is the maximum price range of a watch that you feel comfortable wearing without any worry? Like worry about my environment, or like worry about like, did I spend too much? I need you to elaborate on that, and I will follow up on that question. You can always react. You can always retract. Lone Ranger says, I can always retract landing the gears itself. Nah, bro, I can't. I gotta land this plane. 20K is the number that would make me a bit shaky to wear. Okay. So if we're talking about, I think it's all about your environment, right? Like I live in New York. I know the do's and the don'ts and the where and the not and the stuff. I could wear 100,000. I could wear a $1 million watch in New York because I know when to take it off my wrist. Yes. So I know every inch and I know every place that I can be where I don't have to worry. Fortunately, I don't feel worried overall. But at the same time, it's a case by case situation. Now, would I feel comfortable going to a country that I'm not from with $100,000 watch? Absolutely not, because I don't know that country. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know. You don't know where you're at. But in New York, I know where I'm at. So I know when to take that watch off and when to put the watch on. You know, to be fair, man, I thought that brew wasn't working because I didn't realize it was a quartz. Stop, Ben. Are you serious? You thought the brew wasn't working because I didn't realize it was a quartz? Sheesh, I must have been sipping that brown like Skylar. Bro, that's not nice. Be nice. That's not nice. First and foremost, I've never been so sauced that I didn't know a watch was a quartz. Just saying, Ben. Shots fired. Brew is cool and wear very well. Yes, they do. I agree. And that is this watch by Brew is a dedicated double wrist for me. Like I can always slap this watch on the second wrist, and I like to do that with quartz because it just makes me feel comfortable. Wristful Ignorance says, smash that like button. I do appreciate you, Bo. Kimosabi, yes, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are departing from the plane now. I appreciate you guys, man. This was a lot of fun. I hope that you guys give Speidel a chance. I do believe that they are a quality bracelet, and if you only purchase one, it is fun. But make sure that you check those specifications for the thickness of the band itself. That's a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, wait, let me put on a watch before I do my sign off. Which watch? Let's put on the Brew. Where's the Brew? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable asset, which is time, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Later, guys. Have a great weekend.